Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome. Dalton and Allison joining me live. Thank you very, very much. Those of us watching the video, all cool. We just watched a video on, we just watched a video not on the recording, but let me show you where that is. I'm going to go ahead and switch over here and um, switch to, here we go, share. Good. And here we go. Here's the share screen. Okay, so we just watched a video on Husk Power Systems. It's a real system. It's a really real place, and this is where we are today. Okay, so last week we got into financial management. We'll finish up on that today. And financial management only makes sense if you do it and in conjunction with business modeling. And so we opened up the next section here on business modeling. And you'll see if you click on the first thing here, it says, Welcome to week eight. In this week's unit, we're going to work through business models, okay? And we're going to figure that out, which includes the network, okay? So remember the power and interest grid that we did a long time ago? Now we're going to convert that power and interest grid into something new called the Startup Advocate Grid. It's pretty much the exact same thing. The difference is that the first one we did as individuals, and we did it together, basically as an individual to see people who had interest and also power in our lives. And now we're going to take all those people and decide whether or not they can stick around and be part of the network that is involved or interested in the startup that you're working on. We just watched this video right here. It's about this company called Husk. It's right here. You see here, IMDb. There it is. Okay. We just watched that. It's about this real company called Husk Power Systems. One of the founders tells us a little bit about it. This is another video of in effectuation on the five-part series that we were watching with Stuart Reed. But Husk is an actual system, and they started in India, and their whole focus was to take garbage uh, and to turn it into power and turn it into electricity and be able to sell it as a for-profit company, but with a social venture in mind, meaning they wanted to bring power into the Bihar Peninsula here in India because this place didn't have any power. They had no power, no power. They did not have electricity. And by taking rice husks, okay, the husks that come from rice, which is garbage, okay, and getting that from actually taking that from farmers, where farmers used to actually have to pay in order to have it removed, by taking that and turning it into power and then being able to rent light bulbs and all kinds of generation things back to the farmers. They save the farmers money, and then we're able to bring electricity, a value add, to their areas. And the whole point was they partnered, they worked with other companies that also had a vested interest in this to get them to work with them. And that was their network. Okay, that was the network, the Husk network. And some of the companies they mentioned, it sounds like companies, but it's more like people. Anyway, they've moved now into Nigeria, and they brought the same technology and the same swap stuff there. Just amazing what they've been able to do. So this brings us back to what we were talking about, and let's just take a look here quickly at where we are right now. So we've gone through all this stuff. We've gotten to this point. I said you want to take a look at the first three chapters here of this book called The Accounting Game, Basic Accounting, fresh from the lemonade stand from 2008. It is a fantastic book, the best ever written on accounting and finance and stuff like that. If you don't understand it, this is the way to go. I gave you an income statement, a cash flow statement, and a balance sheet, all of which I expect to see in the feasibility study. I'll get back to that in a second. Um, if you are doing your financials for your company and you're not sure, and you say, Brad, I'd really like you to take a look at the financials, here's a Dropbox for it. Okay. You can click on this and you just upload what you have. You have to send me an email and let me know that you put it in there. Okay. Because if not, I'm not looking for it every single day. But if you just send me an email and say, hey, Brad, can you take a look at our financials? Absolutely. The answer is yes. Can you hand them in? No. Because what happens is once you do the financials, you may decide it's time to go back and change part of your product or service, which may then change your financials. So it's the final piece that goes in the final paper that gets graded. But hey, I'm your teacher. I'm here to teach. I'm here to help you. So if you're like, hey, can you take a look at this? Sure, no problem at all. Happy to do it. Same thing with this, the Startup Advocate pain grid. Okay, so we all worked on our pain grids, right? Now we're going to take our pain grids and we're going to work on this thing called the Startup Advocate grid. This is, as I mentioned, it's a mutation from your original power interest grid, okay, your networking grid from before. You're going to put only people that are interested in this, and we're going to work forward with all those people, then go into the supply. Okay, all the people that you know. I'll show you how that works in a second. And the next thing is, what's next is um, okay, so now we all wrote our contracts, right? And you see, this isn't due until December 1st. Okay, so you can take your time and think about it. But I want you to understand the reason we wrote the contract was because we have to write down our goals. Your dreams are only dreams until you write them down. When you write them down, they get work clothes on them and they become goals. Well, how do you account for yourself for your goals? Well, guess what? By December 1st, we will all have done this. We're going to do a team and self evaluation. It's going to say, hey, for questions one, two, and three, you're going to use a 3 point system. For question four, yes or no. Five, it's rate your own team's contribution. What are you doing with yourself if it's just you and the team? You're rating yourself as to whether or not you did it. It says group or member, okay? If it's just you, it's just you. You're having accountability for yourself. Meeting, work time, attendance. Remember that? That's in the contract. How'd you do? Did you exceed the contract expectations? Did you do okay? Did you meet them? Or did you not meet them? The meeting and the work performance. Did you accomplish what you said you were going to do? Was your work quality good? Okay. Did you do you think that you need to work do you need a work plan revision? Should you really be doing this? Or should you change it? And then finally, are you giving it an A for effort? You know, is it 100%? Are you really giving it 100%? Or are you giving it like 50%? This is you and comments here below. Accounting for how you did on your contract. That's why this is so important. And guess what? There's going to be a final one. Okay, so there's a midterm one that's due on December 1st. Okay, but hand it in whenever you got it ready. If you're already working on it, there's going to be a final one at the end that you're going to also do. Okay, so if it's two or three of you, you can feel free to say, we didn't really do it. We didn't meet when we said we are going to meet. We didn't actually we drank beer instead of working on the project. That's what this class that is absolutely hugely important part of the entrepreneurial mindset and experience. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the share here and I'm going to switch over to some slides here. So I'm switching over. Dalton, Allison, either one of you with any questions? Any questions on what we're doing right now? I'm going to go with no. No,
All
no
good.
thumbs. You're good. Excellent. Thank you. All right, here we go. Now, so what we're doing here is we're doing the business model. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a business model. And we're talking about pain and influence. Okay, so think about that. The pain is the pain grid, all the stuff you hope to accomplish, which most of us have already turned in, and influence, all the people that can influence the outcome of this. This is the story of Husk. Now, to ready here, here's our pop attendance quiz, the information. I know I had mentioned that Sophia had become the first robot to get a citizenship in Saudi Arabia. But the question for tonight has to do with the Henna Hotel. One of my favorite websites is this website called Atlas Obscura that has all these things all across the world that are the most bizarre things you will have ever seen in your entire life. And I will give you a question about this at the end or somewhere near the end. There is a hotel called Henna. Henna. It's in southwestern Japan. All of the employees, there are no humans. All of the employees are AI robots. AI robots. If you want to find out more about it, go on Atlas Obscura. The question at the end. Now, back to what we're talking about. The Crazy Quilt. The Crazy Quilt is the name that we use in effectuation for all of the people that you know that influence you, that have influence, that have power, and they have interest in your business. Okay. Now, we started with the ones that were interested in us personally, and that's a great place to start. Now, you're going to cull that. Okay. So maybe your mom cares about you and has a lot of interest and a lot of power in your life, but really could not care less about the business that you're working on. Take her out. Start with our pain grid, okay? And some of the pains that I have seen so far. Food ordering sucks. Computers now suck. There's no good Yelp for the university, people in the university. Long distance hauling and traveling long distance, it sucks. Uh, Whatever stinks, whatever's terrible, you have to have a need. Okay, we have to travel, we have to eat, it has to be a need, and it has to be a problem. What sucks about what's going on right now? That is where it starts. Then, okay, and this is the exact order that we have done in the class, right? We're gonna go to the power and interest grid, okay, which is in the networking section, and we're gonna look at the one that's for us. Now, if you're working in a group with two or three other people, fantastic. Take all three of yours, right, and take the people in you. Maybe there's four of you in a group. Okay, all four power and interest grids, and we're going to take out the stuff, the ones that are now interested in the thing that the four of you are working on. I guarantee there's some carryover. Okay, this is going to be a good place to start. Who do we know? That's the pain grid, right? Who do we know? Now, if this is all you got, okay, hey, some customers, some social media outlets, you can see how this is very vague, right? This is not going to get you full credit. Okay? This is not going to get exceeds expectations in the paper. It has to be very specific. And I promise you, this is what my promise. No one in the universe, not one person. I don't have a TA. My bosses will never read this. Fellow teachers will never read it. I will never share it with anyone in the world. Okay. I am the only one reading your feasibility studies. So I would like you to be specific. This one is very good. You'll notice there were three people that were in this company. All the people that had red type were one person's, the green type, the other person's, the yellow, the other person's. But you see, they fit together very neatly on this grid. Here's another one, also very similar. The different people that were in the company, and they decided to put them not in the grid, but still very, very specific. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. And who is your crazy quilt? Is it the same situation as what we just saw on Husk? Husk is literally the story about the crazy quilt story, the crazy uh, group of people that were interested that could put this company together right now without having to go beg for pitch money or beg people to get you started. I mean, they just put the people together on the playing field that were on the playing field. It brought together innovation, obviously visibility and transparency, and people were had similar interests, and so money changed hands. Now, remember the structure of this course. This course is very structured. Okay, all we're doing is we're following along with the social venture feasibility study guidelines. Okay, that's the whole point of the class. The first one, two, three, four sections, we're not even going to touch those until we're done. It makes no sense to even start writing those things until you're absolutely done with the whole thing. And that is why you can't hand in parts of this. It has to be done as a whole. Okay. So we started talking about the product service description. Okay. We did that. We pitched it, our social venture pitch. That's what this was about. And one of our fellow students asked me a question today, sent me an email. And by the way, send me an email. Okay. I will get back to you instantaneously as soon as you email me. Unless I'm asleep or something like that, I'll do it then first thing. But they asked me this question: I did the discovery, okay, part where I looked up the product, and then I pitched it, and now I'm starting to work on it, and I think maybe I might be changing it as I go along. Is that okay? Yes, it is absolutely okay. In fact, it's highly unlikely that you will end up, if you really do this feasibility study honestly, with the same product you started with. It will have changed, okay? Because you said what you think you were interested in. Then, remember I showed you 2 weeks ago about the library? We'll take another quick look at that tonight. We looked at the library and we looked up the industry and the market information about that product. At that point, we may have said to ourselves, this industry is dead and there's no market for this. We need to go back and change what we thought we were going to work on. We may have looked at the people that we know, and the people, all the people were interested in this in our power interest grid, and thought we don't have anybody, but if we changed it a little bit, we could go back. We talked about setting up the company. Remember we did that already? We and the liabilities and stuff like that. You may have realized that, oh my gosh, this product has so much liability. I'm going to get sued before I even make the first one. What happens? You have to go back. You have to change it. Okay? And that is the whole point of the class. The library is the place where we find the information about the industry and market. So if you missed that before, you just go in, you put in a very general key search, search a term, and it'll take you through all of the industry information you need to know. Here's pizza, something as simple as pizza. Who's all working in pizza? What are the different markets for different pizza things? So this broke it down from industry information to market information, who the different players are in the industry, what are some of the things that have changed about it, where do you fit in that? What kind of actual numbers are we talking about here? Then, okay, then we go and we take that information, and this is what we're doing right now. We're working on the founding team. We started with our initial startup network, and now we're going to hone it and make it tighter. And you're going to find that probably the most important people in your founding team in Husk was a great example because one of the most important parts of his founding team were the farmers. They were his not they were his customers. He sold it to them. They then gave him the husks to turn into the power. Were they the founding team? Yes, absolutely. Hugely important. So his sales strategy was his founding team. And you know what? You're going to find that that's absolutely the case with what we're working on here because your first customers are going to be your acolytes. They're going to sell for you. They're going to tell you how wonderful you are. We talked about the different forms of doing business, okay? Because then now you're going to go back and you're going to say, okay, was a sub S corporation the way to go here? We all started as sole proprietorships or partnerships, but now what do we want to change that? Okay, we want to go back. We go back to the founding team. Okay, how are we going to organize? How is this going to be organized? So remember that the key issue in how it's organized has to do with taxes and liability and governance and also where you hope to go in the future. You know, if you wanted to go and if your goal is to turn this into a public corporation, you might be thinking about a C corporation, although that's very, very costly. And if not, forget it. Who cares? So now we're looking at the financial plan. Okay, this is what we spent time on last week. Okay, we went ahead and we actually wrote down the things, and I'm going to show you mine today. Okay, I'm going to show you mine from my flight school to show you how simple it is. This is not rocket science. Okay, you're going to write down all the stuff that it's going to cost, figure out how you're going to get paid, and then you're going to put that together in the balance sheet. And remember, I said, okay, whenever you're nervous and these numbers look crazy, just go look at a picture of a puppy. Okay, so here's a puppy, and this was my baby who's now 20 years old. This is my 20-year-old. This is Dylan. Now, remember I said I expected us to read the first three chapters? These are not long, okay? These are not long chapters. I know it looks like a long chapter. It's not. There are lots and lots of pictures, okay? It starts with, hey, you remember one year when you decided you needed to make some extra money in the summer and you could have maybe been babysitting, or maybe you went ahead and opened up your first lemonade stand. How do you categorize all the costs that go into a lemonade stand? And what do you do with it? Well, you're going to put the cash in here and how much money you're going to start with, and you've got plans and hopes and partners, and the partners are your parents, and the partners are your kid friends that are going to come by and buy lemonade, and maybe somebody that's a teacher in school that could bring a bunch of your friends over. You're going to start with the original investment, and you're going to say, okay, we have cash, and your cash is going to be in the balance sheet. It's going to say, hey, all your assets are going to equal your liabilities and your equity. Then chapter 2, we're going to say, hey, look, let's itemize all the stuff that everything's going to cost. Okay, so your sales, your cost of goods sold, your gross profit. This is going to be your income statement. You're going to write down all the things you're going to have to do and all the things that are expenses to get it done. Hopefully, we're not keeping any inventory in this class. I promised. I asked that we please not do that. But we're going to put together a cash statement, which is basically how are you going to get the money? How are you going to get the money? Collections. Are people going to send you something on Venmo? I hope not. Venmo is evil. Or somebody would send you a check or paying in cash. I hope they're paying you in cash. That's the best way. Always cash, cash, cash. And this is just as we said last time, this is your checkbook. No different than a checkbook. How do you get the money? But also, how do you spend the money? Are you going to pay people on the spot? Are you going to pay them down a little down payment and then the rest of it later? However you want to do this, okay? So it's how are you going to get the money from the customers, and are you going what exactly are you going to sell, and how are suppliers? How are you going to pay suppliers? Are you going to have to get somebody to help you? We said your blame. You need your blame, And we said, here's the way we want to look at this. Okay. We want to basically not buy anything. Okay. Buy very, very, very little. Don't hire anybody. If you need something done, go and get a contract worker. Don't go hire somebody to work on your computers. Go to Best Buy and get a geek. Um, you want to keep inventory absolutely zippity doo dah. Okay. And so we're making all this stuff up. That's why we call them assumptions. Okay, you could call this science fiction, like old Dumbledore here is science fiction, right? Or what do they call it? Fantasy fiction, because you're going to make up how many things you're going to sell, but you're going to make it up with some reality. Okay, you're not going to say, "Hey, the market's $1 million. I'm going to get 1%." No, you're going to say, "I have 1 day a week to sell stuff. I'm going to sell 5 things every week. Each one of those things is worth $1. There's 50 weeks in a year, so that's $2,500 in a year." Okay, and so your sales is an income statement, and the income statement is I'm expecting three of these. Three income statements, one for the first year, the second year, and the third year. That's it. We said that line at the bottom line, we hope that's zero. But, okay, we're going to start with, hey, I'm going to do how many sales a day? I'm going to make how many contacts a day? I'm going to close how many of those contacts a day? How many a week? How many a year? And how much is each sale? That's the number we're putting in that sales number. The balance sheet, believe it or not, you should put one of these together for yourself, but I don't actually ask you to put one of these in the feasibility paper. I don't care. I don't need to see one of these things. For a startup business, this is a bunch of malarkey. Nobody gives a crap. Your assets are yourself and whatever you're doing. But what is important is that all of these statements come together so that the net income, okay, at the top should be the same thing as your net income from your income statement. Then your ending cash, whatever that ending cash is the number that goes in your balance sheet. The cash statement, I expect to see 12 of, one for each month of the first year. Month one, two, three, all the way to 12. Okay, so that's how these things tie out, and that's why this book is really handy. Now, the quiz, we have two things to read. The chapter 1 through 3, which and it has a lot of pictures in there. Though it's 20 something, 20, 30 pages. It's really like 5 pages, really, of actual words. But chapter 9 in our textbook is also kind of sums those three up and does a great job of doing it. And here are the questions on the quiz. First of all, aged receivables are very, very important. They are part of your liquidity. Okay. Even though they're not in your cash flow statement, they are a part of your cash flow statement and they show what's an age receivable mean? So you're going to deliver some lemonade to your friend, and you're making lemonade. You're going to go to their party, and you're going to make lemonade during the party, and they're going to pay you back after the party's over once they get money for people going, admission fee to the party. Okay, because they don't have the money up front. So you say, okay, that sounds good. You can pay me at the end of the party. So you do the lemonade, you make the lemonade, you hand it out like a lemonade but barista. Everybody's happy, and they promise to pay you a week later after they clean everything up and figure out exactly what it was, and they'll pay you a percentage of the sales. So you count how many people came to the party. There was 20 people at the party, and they were charging $5 a head, and so you're getting a percentage of that. So now after the party, you put the numbers together and say, "Oh, look, I should be getting $25." And he promised me he'd give me it in a week. Okay, so your age receivable is I'm going to get $20 in a week. What happens on day 8, the day after the week is up? Okay, well, that person then becomes a deadbeat, right? It's like they didn't pay you. Okay, so now your age receivables are going to grow in age. So it's very important, okay, that you need three different. Let me just say this here. It says right here, there's only 5 financial reports you're going to need. It's actually really three. Okay, there's three. First is the income statement. Okay, and I'm going to show you that when you don't have any inventory, your income statement looks almost identical to your cash flow statement. In fact, you can do them at the same time and then separate them. You need to know whether or not this is from your book. You need to know whether or not you're going to be accrual or cash based. Okay. If you're keeping any inventory, you're going to be accrual based. That's important that you know that, and you put that in your what do you call it? Your assumptions. If you don't keep any inventory, then you're going to be cash based, which is great. What does that mean exactly? It just means that at the time of taxes, you don't have to pay taxes if you're cash based on anything you haven't received money for. Remember that age receivable idea I just told you about the lemonade? Let's say that happens right before tax time, right before April 16th. And uh-oh, you got to do your taxes. You've got to include that accounts receivable, meaning that $20 you didn't get. You're going to pay taxes on $20 that you didn't get. Why is that? Because that's called accrual-based accounting. If you have lemons and sugar and all that kind of stuff in stock, that's how you have to do it. It has to be accrual, which sucks because you're going to be giving money to Uncle Sam that you didn't get yet. That doesn't seem very fair. if you don't if you don't keep inventory, you're cash based, so like you're service oriented. Let's say we do an internet business and we're going to drop ship stuff, so you never actually have the stuff. If somebody goes on your website, says, oh, I want that hat, and when they click on the thing, it automatically orders it from your hat maker somewhere. They make it and they send it directly to the person, and they send you a percentage of that sale. You are keeping no inventory. You do not have to pay taxes on anything until you get the cash. So your income statement, your cash statement, they should go together. They should be hand in hand, parcel with each other. Now, the question you have is, okay, what about this? Can you can you make a profit if you're a not-for-profit company? Yes, you actually can. Believe it or not, nonprofit companies do make profits. The main thing is you cannot, as an officer, you cannot, as the owner or officer of a not-for-profit company, a 501c or C3 or D or E, you can't get dividends from the company. You can have profits, you can have profit share, but you can't get dividends. The question is, a nonprofit must be profitless? No, false. False. Nonprofit officers cannot receive dividends. Okay, dividends. They cannot receive dividends. That's the rule. Now, interesting thing about this in profitability. Uh, if you are unprofitable, okay, here's the problem. If you start this thing up and you lose money where you start as a nonprofit, um, you're going to find that you are going to be completely dependent on whoever brings the largesse, okay, to the firm. Largesse means lots of money, okay? Whoever brings the most amount of money to the company, you are now their slave. And that is a bummer. Big bummer. An agency that consistently loses money on its operations and makes it up on fundraising depends on the largesse of whoever it is that's giving them the fund. All right, back to this, okay? So this is called the income statement. It's also called a profit and loss statement. The line at the bottom is called the bottom line. The thing that shows the bottom line for activities is the profit and loss statement, otherwise known as the income statement. Okay. These are questions from the quiz. The basis of financial management. Remember, whoever controls the largest asset in a company controls the company. So if that's the cash, that's who controls it. But liquidity means all that means is like that you stay liquid. Think of cash as being the liquid blood of the company, right? And if the blood stops, the company stops. You're bankrupt. So liquidity has a lot to do with your cash flow statement and also um, your what do you call it? Your deliverables. Okay, that's important. Okay, so now the balance sheet, though, this thing, the reason I'm not asking for this in your paper is because it's basically it's a snapshot of your business. As soon as you write it down, it basically is old. Okay, but it gives you a snapshot of the company's financial health. Okay, the balance sheet is what gives you a snapshot of the financial health of the company. And when you talk, you see the Shark Tank. You watch Shark Tank. If you watch that, that's the first thing they ask is what's your balance sheet? Let me see your balance sheet. They want to see what your assets are. But remember, whoever controls, if you do the you go and you get the Shark Tank and they give you $1 million, believe me, all of a sudden, whoever controls the largest asset on the company, they give you $1 million, controls your company. That's it. That's how it works. And if you get into debt, speaking of sharks, I'm not a big fan of Mark Cuban, but this is what he said. If you use a credit card, you do not want to be rich. Okay. Don't use credit. Do not use credit. Credit is bad. You can't risk using credit. Why? Because credit card companies, well, think about this. First of all, when you go into a big city, who usually owns the biggest buildings in the whole city? Either a credit card company or an insurance company, right? So you know they make money. Okay. How do you think they make money? They are the best bettors in the world. They know that you are going to screw up. You're going to put it on your credit card and say, "Oh, I'm going to pay it off before it's due. I'm not going to pay any interest." Or "I'm going to use the free period and I have no interest period." They know you're going to screw up. They're putting the money on the fact that you are going to screw up. You're going to have some emergency and not be able to pay in that month, or a couple of emergencies, and all of a sudden they know. Do you know the average credit card balance is about $5,000? Average credit card balance is between $5,000 and $10,000. Do you know the interest that they accrue, compounding interest on the average, let's call it $8,000, the average $8,000 in 10 years? It's close to $1 million in compounding interest. You cannot afford to lose that. Now, things that you sell, okay, that you're going to sell that are not the thing that you actually do. Okay, so if I have flight instruction, I'm going to do my flight school, I'm going to sell flight instruction, and I want to do some t-shirts and some hats. These are called UBIT, okay? UBIT, unrelated business income, and there's taxes on that. And you got to be very, very careful about it. A regular carried out activity unrelated to it, your actual mission is called your UBIT. It's very important that you understand what that is because it can be taxed differently and really screw you up. Related to your charitable mission or your actual mission, in the example in the book, were the students' tuitions, okay? But selling the books was not. That's important. All right, aids receivables, your deliverables, okay? How often, how much, how you get paid is all part of liquidity, okay? That's part of liquidity. The five important reports include all but, can you guess? Cash flow is one of them. Age receivable is one of them. Profit and loss statement is one of them. Articles of incorporation? No, that is not one of them. In fact, articles of incorporation is not included. This is, I guess, a trick question, right? Okay, so now we do this break-even analysis. What does that mean? What does it mean to break even? All it means is that your costs are equal to your revenues at that point, okay? And that's really important. Here, check this out, okay? This is my flight school's, this is my running tally, okay? And you're going to see this is a cash flow statement and it's also an income statement. And what I've done here, and this is why this is so important, and this is where you're going to want to know how to put this stuff together. You want to separate, first start out with the money that you get. So this is a 2 month period, okay? And in this 2 month period, I'm going to do 50 hours of flight instruction and 10 hours. I mean, actually, I'm going to rent my plane for 50 hours. And of those 50 hours, 10 is going to be with me actually instructing in the plane. So the plane rents at 110 an hour. I rent at $40 an hour. So together, when we put together 50 full hours, we're going to have $5,900 for the 2 months. Now, what's it going to cost me to do this? This is not rocket science. You're just going to throw stuff against the wall. Well, let's see. What kind of things do you have? You have fuel, you've got a hangar, you've got insurance, you've got a lawyer, you've got a computer, you've got a website. All right, let's put this stuff together. Things that are fixed are stuff that are never going to change. In fact, the hangar, the mortgage on the plane. Now, I don't believe in a mortgage. Okay, I don't have a mortgage. But when you buy a plane, you have to realize that every like 10 to 20 years, you're going to have to basically rebuy the plane because it's going to need what's called an overhaul, which costs the same amount as the plane costs brand new. It's a weird business, aviation. So if I have a $40,000 airplane in 20 years, it's going to require a $40,000 overhaul. That's insane. So you escrow that. It means like you put that money aside. Some people call it a sinking fund. I call it an escrow that you know you're going to have to pay that in the future. So you're going to put that aside. That's fixed, right? You're going to do that same every month, every month, every month. Your insurance, your phone, the bookkeeping services, your advertising, its subscriptions, all this stuff is fixed. What's not fixed? Well, there's two different kinds of fixed variables. They've got a variable one where you have maintenance, okay? Maintenance, every 100 hours, I got to have it taken apart and looked at. But if I don't fly 100 hours, I don't have to have it taken apart and looked at. But as soon as I get to 100 hours, I'm going to have to get that taken apart and looked at. So it's fixed, but it's not fixed. And then there's the truly variable things like the cost of gas, the cost of maintenance, unforeseen maintenance. See, you separate these apart because what you want to make sure is you want to make sure that your fixed costs are not too high. Because if they're too high, if you have a slowdown in business, you go out of business. I saw quite a few flight schools that went out of business because they had too expensive a hangar, they had too many planes, they had too much money that they put into websites and everything like that. That's stuff that's all fixed, and that'll put you right out of business. But you use this, and you'll see that it's going to change your service. See how it says if I fly 10 and instruct 40? This was me trying to figure out how many hours do I need to instruct in a 2 month period in order to break even. So I know going in, okay, no problem. I know I have to do at least 10 this month. This is how you do it. It's super duper simple. Now, if you're getting nervous, here's another picture of a puppy. All right, we're going to come to a quick close here. Okay, we're going to get through this in like 5 minutes. You ready? Here goes. First of all, okay, the break even point is no big deal, but you're definitely going to mention that. Okay, the people that you know. Remember, we talked about how we figure out who the people are and what our business model is. Okay, all business model is writing down the stuff. Okay, how you're going to do it. In this class, there are ways of doing it. We use what's called the pain grid. Okay, and all the pain grid is basically a breakdown of this thing called the business model canvas. Okay, we start with a contract that tells us what we're going to do. We start with a very simple contract. Hey, look, every Monday from 6:30 to 7 a.m., I'm going to work on my network. Okay. I'm going to write something nice about one of the participants and be specific to them. Once a month, I'm going to make one introduction by asking to do an introduction. This is my list. Okay. I'm going to have assumptions. I'm going to write them down. This does not have to be like rocket science. Keep it super simple. Those numbers, assumptions go into my income statement, just like I just showed you. Then I'm go to the pain grid. Okay. Need to eat. Okay. The problem is, well, I would like to make jam. Okay. But jam is terrible because it has too much sugar in it. The problem is jam has too much sugar in it. My kids need to eat. What do I have in my supply column? Well, I have a recipe. I have raspberries. I have people that I know, including the guy who runs the school nearby. Oh, the guy who runs the school nearby. Look, power and interest. He goes right here. You see how these are interconnected? That's what we're doing. Remember, start with the pain, but also start with what you have access to. Go to the people that you know, put those two together. Take that pain, power, interest grid, and we're going to turn that into the accolade grid. And you're going to see, okay, what's the difference? Well, the power interest grid. Okay, we've got high power, high interest. You want to keep these guys satisfied, and these people will manage closely. Okay, what are we doing here? Well, we're going to take those people, we're going to call them something. If people have interest, the same kind of pain that you have, if they also have the same problem that you have or this same problem that you're selling, then they are high in pain share. And if they also have resources they can access, like buy stuff from you, give you money, let you use their machines, they are also high in resource availability. Therefore, you're going to call that person an acolyte. If they don't have the pain, okay, but they have resources they can lend you, they might be a backer. If they have the same pain as you, but they don't have any money or anything that they can help you resource wise, they would be called an ideologue. And even if they don't share your pain, and even if they have nothing to offer, you still consider them a customer. You consider them in here. They're a supporter. Okay. The two of these things go hand in hand. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the entire basis of this class. You say to yourself, wow, this is called effectuation. Okay. And we did almost all of these. Okay. We still have one more left to do. We did bird in hand principle. You start with who you are, what you know, who you know. You don't risk what you can't afford to lose. Don't get credit cards. The crazy quilt principle. Now you're going to look at the crazy quilt, the network of self-selected stakeholders, or we'll call them startup members, and the lemonade principle. As soon as you see something that happens that you didn't expect, guess what? It may be for perfect. Pilot the plane. We're going to come to that next. I promise that'll be it. But we start with who we are. Oh, I see Karen join us. Hi, Karen. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. What goals can I do? You're going to interact with people. And then what does that mean? Then you're going to have more people. The more people, the more means. The more means, you can go back and you have more stuff that you have. This is the pain grid. It starts with the problem and the need. You look at what you have to access it. Who are the customers for it? There's your demand. Log line, keep it simple. Now, the pop quiz for tonight. The assumption, or I should say, the question for tonight is henna. Okay. We're going to say, was it good? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Or do you think it's just downright ugly? And say why. Okay. So which just tell me your reason for it, and we'll call that cool. All right. Now we are done here. We're just finishing up here. And Dalton and Allison, thank you so much for joining. Those of you who watched the recording, all cool, no problem. And I appreciate you doing that. Please email me if you have any questions. I'm always here for you. So I'm going to stop the recording. So thanks for watching.